Israeli forces continue the side against the civilian population in the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported at least 830 dead and more than 4,000 wounded. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro condemned the more than 7 decades of Israeli humiliation and aggressions against the Palestinian nation. And in Peru, the health union called for an indefinite national strike as they claim that the government maintains an anti-labor policy towards professionals in the sector. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. Israeli forces continue the fight against the civilian population in the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry report at least 830 dead and more than 4,200 wounded. According to the latest update presented by the Palestinian Health Ministry, most of the deceased were children and women. Meanwhile, the number of wounded stood at 4,250. These numbers are expected to rise with the ongoing heavy attacks throughout the seaside enclave. The Israeli bombardment have left no place untouched in the Gaza Strip, especially the attacks are targeting civilians and vital installations, such as areas near the main hospitals in the seaside enclave, which is currently sheltering hundreds of wounded Palestinians. In Palestine, more than 180,000 people are reported displaced in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours due to the increase of attacks by Israel against the Palestinian territory. The United Nations office registered 137,472 refugees in schools and other facilities of the UN Public Works and Relief Agency, noting that whereabouts of the rest of the displaced persons are unknown. In this regard, the Palestinian Ministry of Health denounced the deliberate bombardment by the Israeli forces against hospitals and medical centers. Israel's Defense Ministry then announced on Tuesday that they will inform families of Hamas hostages about their current situation. According to the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, the number of hostages confirmed range between 100 and 150. The defense forces will pay visits to the homes of families of the hostages to formalize the situation. The Israeli authorities, especially the army, have been severely questioned by the dozens of families who are stranded for hours after the surprise attack by Hamas brigades in the framework of the Operation Al-Qassam Flood. In this context of Israeli aggressions, at least 6 reporters have been murdered by the occupation forces. The International Federation of Journalists and Palestinian Journalists Unions confirmed the death of Said Al-Tawil, director of the Al-Hamisa News Agency, photographer Mohammed Sobo, and Hisham Nawajan, who was a journalist from the Gaza Agency. As the Israeli aggression continues, let's go with Gaza reporter Akram Dalwol for more details.
A new day of Israeli bombardment on the Gaza Strip, and the outcome is more Palestinian martyrs and victims. According to official and medical sources in Gaza, most of these victims are civilian, especially children, elderly, and warning. As we can see in the images, dear viewers, these attacks are taking place in different parts of the Gaza Strip and are ongoing. The Israeli army says from time to time it destroys more resistant targets, but what is most noticeable is a direct attack on unarmed civilians. Today, Israeli bombed the only exit of the population of the Gaza Strip. After cutting off their water, electricity, and depriving them of food, the rough land crossing, Israel also prevented the entry of any basic necessities, including medicines and fuel, to generate electricity, and therefore we're still talking about an extremely difficult humanitarian scenario. Despite all this, Palestinians in Gaza still reiterate that they will continue their struggle against the occupation and support their resistance, which they claim has brought them closer to freedom.
Let's take our very first break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro denounced the perpetrated genocide by Israel on the Gaza Strip and urged for respecting the rights and peace of the Palestinian people. Venezuelan head of state asserted that the violent situation in Palestine is an outcome of Tel Aviv violations of the UN's agreements. Maduro demanded a ceasefire immediately, respect for the human rights of citizens, and the start of immediate peace negotiations in Palestine. Maduro warned of the public war opinion keep quiet about the deprivation, violence, and massacres against the people of Palestine.
Let us demand compliance with the resolution of the United Nations. Let us demand a ceasefire. Let us demand that the decisions of the United Nations be respected. Let us demand respect for the rights of peoples, and let us demand that peace negotiations begin immediately to restore the historic rights of the Palestinian people to independence, to territory, to peace. Advocate for the people of Palestine. Advocate for peace.
Maduro announced that Venezuela will begin to send much-needed humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people.
Brothers and sisters, Venezuela joins the humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. We once again join in helping the Palestinian people. We join in the humanitarian aid, not to the blockade, not to the genocide against.
Meanwhile, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, stated that an agreement was reached with the government of the United States in order to regularize migration. The president indicated that the agreement will also allow Venezuelans who are without legal conditions in a North American country to return to the Caribbean nation with a planned return to the homeland. The president also denounced a network of coyotes dedicated to illegally traded the transfer of Venezuelans from Latin American countries to the United States. At the same time, he referred that such illegal network is directed by a group of reference of the national far-right fugitive from justice. After the first state visit to Venezuela since the reestablishment of relations in 2021, signed Lucia Prime Minister Philippe Briard said that the meeting serves to softly hand-in-hand relation.
An ambassador designate to Venezuela, and the former administration refused to accept her credentials, which caused a lot of shame on in the international world. An ambassador in St. Lucia, and the government refuses to accept her credentials. That is unheard of, and the Minister of External Affairs will tell you what mark that did on the country. So we re-established these relations, and the ambassador was accepted.
For his part, St. Lucia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Olva Baptiste, reported on the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding.
Also sign a clear roadmap to how we can actually deal with the air services agreement that will facilitate the Venezuelan carrier to operate in our jurisdiction. It will create an improved framework for both tourism and trade between Venezuela and St. Lucia. As a matter of fact, many years ago we had Rentavion taking speculators from St. Lucia across to Margarita and back. So this is nothing new. I think we are going to start a new engagement for trade and cooperating on a fundamental.
The health union claims that the Peruvian government maintains an anti-labor policy towards professionals in the sector who are demanding fulfillment of the agreements previously agreed. The Secretary General of the Federation Senate Union of Salud Worker Wilfredo Ponce Castro reported that the health sector's workers union will go on a strike indefinitely from October the 10th at a national level. According to Castro, the measure is in response to the Peruvian Ministry of Health's failure to fulfill an annual bonus that should have been given to the workers. Havana is one of the 7 wonder cities of the world. It historic centers preserves castles, palaces, and squares that enchants passers-by. But what gives the city its special magic is people. Here on the move unveils this time the story of Juana la Cubana. Han Laana Lopez tells us more.
These are pictures of the Wonder City any day in 2023. In the 1776 Cathedral of Havana and its surroundings, postcards like these are common enigmatic gypsy women, traditional dresses, vivid colors, and lots of flavor.
Siempre yo levanto mi copa.
I always raise my glass and ask for peace, unity, and tranquility for Cuba. But I also ask it for the world.
In this corner of the famous square, she is perhaps one of the most famous faces of Cuba. There is no tourist who passes through here that does not take a picture of her. For many, she is a symbol of the Cathedral Square, an iconic figure of the old Havana. However, very few know her story.
I am Santera. I am Palera. I am spiritual. I am seer, and I have dedicated my whole life to this.
Her real name is Juana Rios Rios. She is 84 years old and was born in the westernmost province of Cuba, Pinar del Rio. She has 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and 16 great-grandchildren. The saints that rule her are Oshun and Obatala. Her daughter Teresa has her gift and reads the cards together with her.
Dormida, aprendí a tirar las cartas.
While sleeping, I learned to read the cards, and later I began to read the cards dressed as Jabó on the street. Before setting up here, I would do it in a more secluded corner because back then I didn't have a permit. And Eusebio Leal passed by it and asked me, "What are you doing there?" And I told him, "Eusebio, I'm reading cards because I want to buy some leotards for my granddaughter who is in rhythmic gymnastics. I won't do it anymore." And he told me, no, it's okay, stay there. And he put me to work here. He told me, "Juana, you have to behave well because I discussed this work with Fidel and he authorized me to do it."
Juana always has a cigar in her mouth. However, she confesses that she does not like smoking. In her youth, she worked at a tobacco factory and claims to know all kinds of tobacco.
The one that I am smoking now was given to me. I don't really like any of them because my African deity likes to chew. And I put it in my mouth for her and turn it around because I don't like tobacco. What I like is sticks, beans, Cuban food.
La comida cubana.
La abuela de Juana era africana.
Juana's grandmother was African, her father a musician who played 10 instruments. She says that since she was 10 years old, she has been accompanied by Rufina, this black doll that spoke to her while she slept. When Fidel Castro died, she was one of the first to arrive at the Revolution Square to pay tribute to him. She says she's a grateful woman.
Muy agradecida.
Very grateful, because when the revolution triumphed, I lived in a small wooden house, and the revolution gave me a house. I used to sign with my 2 fingers anything I had to sign. Then a teacher that the revolution brought to my house taught me to read and taught me to write. That's why I always carry my revolution in my heart.
Por eso siempre llevo a mi revolución en el corazón.
Juana loves music, she sings and dances about everything.
Tengo mi bastoncito porque he tenido.
I have my little cane because I've had a few problems with my legs. But when I hear the music, I throw the cane away and start dancing. Well, Cuba is a little hot, but we will always fight to move forward because we are severely blocked by United States imperialism. When I read the cards, I see that we Cubans even cure ourselves with herbs. I know about herbs, but always the doctors trained by the revolution, especially by the commander-in-chief, always strive to save us. And I do say that with one more effort, we will go forward.
Estoy de nuevo a tu lado, madrecita, muy contenta porque ha triunfado la revolución y han cesado los tormentos en mi alma. Fidel nos ha premiado por darle a Cuba la libertad.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch an interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. For financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Monday, U.S. police shot down the driver of the vehicle that crashed into the Chinese Consulate in San Francisco. As a spokesman for the office said, the suspect drove violently into the interior of the administrative room, causing a serious threat to the life of staff people on site and causing severe damage.
They found the vehicle had come to rest inside the lobby of the Chinese Consulate. Officers entered, made contact with the suspect, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Officers rendered aid, and they had summoned paramedics from the San Francisco Fire Department. And in spite of the life-saving efforts of the police officers, firefighter, paramedics, and personnel at the hospital, the suspect was later pronounced deceased at the hospital.
The Chinese President Xi Jinping has a meeting with U.S. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and his delegation in Beijing. Xi Jinping and that the China-U.S. relationship is the most important in the world, and that how the two countries interact in a world of change and upheaval will determine the future of the humanity. She said China and the United States should demonstrate the broad-mindedness, vision, and responsibility of great countries, improve the well-being of the people of the two nations, and promote the progress of society. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed al-Sudani held a meeting with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, in Moscow. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov announced that the head of state's working agenda focuses on regional security issues and the energy agreement between Moscow and Baghdad. The Iraqi premier joined the Russian president at the Energy Week to be held at the Manes Exhibition Center in Moscow from 11 and 13 of October. The meeting took place in the context of the war between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza, which has caused dozens of deaths. we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English and from the South, I'm Marrero. Thank you for watching.